All right, good afternoon. Today is April 7th, 2022 at 1 o'clock. The Human Services Background Study Eligibility Task Force Subcommittee on Data meeting. We are going to do our roll call. Mr. Vogel, if you will.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ms. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Cameron?
Present.
Ms. Matson?
Here.
Representative Mueller? Representative Mueller. Ms. Robertus? I see that you're present. Yeah, mic issues are always a pain. And Ms. Williamson?
Present.
All right, Madam Chair, 5 to 6 members are present. A quorum is present.
All right, great. I'm so happy to see you all. Going with our agenda, as we have quorum, we want to move to adopt the previous meeting minutes. And if there aren't any questions or corrections that need to be made or objections, I declare the previous meeting minutes as adopted. All right, so before we go into our discussion, I know that right now for our subcommittee, we are trying to establish timeframes and schedule, as well as we were asked by our chair to establish a timeline that this subcommittee will be working. And so first off, we need to figure out our meetings, right? We had decided to go to monthly, and then as you all seen, we added the 1st of April versus just having April 29th. So I'm really wanting us to kind of just start off there. Thank you so much for participating in the doodle poll where we were able to get this meeting going today. And just want to see, as we are looking to, full transparency, we're looking to set the framework going forward, as we've been asked to do analyzing of the or analysis of the data collected. So happy we do have that 4th data set, but also want to see how we're going to move forward and work what works best for everyone. So in light of us being able to present a schedule for April 22nd, I'm either proposing or want to just open up discussion about how frequently we should look to start meeting or to begin our meeting going forward, or schedule our meetings going forward, excuse me. And so we may need to schedule a meeting as early as next week, or do bi-monthly meetings, as we had. At one point, we were at weekly meetings. So I just want to open up that discussion with everyone at this time as we look to go forward and just really take deeper dive in this work of this subcommittee. Maybe to start off, is there any day of the week that is just completely not available to anyone, any of the members of the subcommittee? And I do understand Representative Mueller is not here, but just want to kind of start there. If there's some days and times that are absolute not available to anyone here.
Wednesdays are particularly tough for me. I have classes almost all day long, and those are things I typically can't move until summertime, but for a good part of it, I would be unavailable most Wednesdays.
Got it.
Is just going back to Friday when we had them every other week just work for folks?
I'd say, oh, go ahead.
I would say yes, with a small occasion that I might have something that I'll have to miss for, but for the most part, yeah. My schedule is so goofy that I like all days are full.
Yep. I hear that.
So no part, yeah, I think most are like that, especially with virtual. I feel like people just put meetings on your calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. Fridays aren't bad, I think, but I potentially have more conflicts while we're in session just because there's conference committees which aren't as predictable as
Mhm.
regular committee schedules. But
Okay.
Mondays and Fridays are generally a little bit better.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
like,
feel like we all just had that blocked off in our calendar not that long ago, and so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would, yeah, I would agree that Friday afternoon time worked well for me. With that exception of occasionally I might have a Friday commitment, but overall seemed to be pretty well. Monday mornings work pretty decent as well, but I'm in support of both.
All right.
Madam Chair, would you mind if I interject you for a second?
Please.
So I feel like a little bit of this scheduling confusion is on me with the fact that next week, which would have been our bi-weekly schedule, is the legislative holiday and the Good Friday holiday, both of which, raise some questions about staff availability. And so, like, I think when this discussion first happened a couple of weeks ago, that's what was throwing a monkey wrench in the spanners. So I would like to point out that because of those holidays, next week will be a problem for staff availability. So the members, I don't know if we can schedule if you can schedule a meeting for next week per se. If you'd like to schedule a meeting between now and April 29th, we could definitely do an ad hoc one, not on that Fridays at noon, but otherwise the Fridays at noon time, like insofar as I introduced any confusion relating to the Good Friday thing, I apologize. That's a one-off, and Fridays at noon otherwise works great for staff availability on our end. So I hope that clarifies things anyway.
Thanks, Will.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that we should schedule a meeting for next week as a result of our discussions today. And so Thursdays are kind of the more rigid day for me. So aside from Wednesday or Thursday, come next week, Monday or Tuesday is a preference. Is there a preference that the members have?
I don't know that we need to go to every week. I think every 2 weeks is good. As long as we are working, like I would just like to use these meetings as time to get down to the data. And so I think every other week is probably good. And we met last week. We got to some of the work, so if we could skipping next week because it's Easter, or the 17th or whatever is Easter, and then meeting again on the 29th, and then starting every 2 weeks after that, I think is probably good. If we could get to work today, that would be great.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Vice Chair. Thank you for bringing that up. So us meeting on next week, I just want to make sure we have time to set our schedule. I really want to take time to have our discussion for today's meeting. And then hopeful to set up some time for next week where we just do a short meeting just to then be able to define our schedule up and through September to be prepared for the 22nd.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
sorry if you don't mind me interrupting.
Please.
I think I was a little unclear. There won't be staff availability for next week due to the legislative recess.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. So can we look at the Monday or Tuesday, the 18th or 19th?
Is there something that you want to do next week that we can't do right now?
So again, just as we begin the discussions on the agenda for today, I want to make sure we have time to really dove off into those discussions and set the framework. Today would be the objective. But then also setting our schedule that we're going to present for the full task force. I want to make sure that we have time specifically just to do that. And right now we're setting the framework. So I want to make sure that we have time to do both. Is that clear?
Today, we're just going to set the cadence of the meetings, and then like this date, we're going to go through data set number 1. On this date, we're going to go through data set number, whatever the plan is.
So today, just setting the framework, because we don't have a framework as of yet. So to be able to set the frame of the direction that we're going from here, and then be able to attach those dates to that. So if we're able to do all of that today, fine. I just want to make sure, if not, that we already have it scheduled before we get into the discussion. Because the previous meetings, we have run out of time to set the actual timeframes.
Well, let's see what we can get done.
Yep. So what would be the preference, Vice Chair, is what I would like to find out first. The 18th or the 19th from the members.
So we have the disqualification subcommittee meeting on the 19th.
Okay.
And the remedies subcommittee meeting on the 18th. And so neither of those days work for me. I have full calendar days, both of those days. And to keep in mind, like the legislators are like, it's like they're this full session right now, very busy time right now. So I don't know that, and then we have another meeting, the 29th, if we get on that cadence right now. So maybe we could get some work done right now and see what we can get done. And then at the end of the meeting, if we need another meeting, we could look at scheduling.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now, Vice Chair, because we've run out of time, 2 meetings now. So Thursdays, I would prefer, like I said, that's my more rigid day, but we can look at the 21st, just from what Vice Chair just made mention about the 18th and 19th. Do we want to look at possibly doing the 21st, say, earlier would be better for me for that Thursday? Or we can look at doing this one.
Make it. But Madam Chair, I can't make it, but I'm not, I'm just one person, so.
You can't make it at all on the 21st?
No, sorry, my mom's having surgery that day, so, and I'm not sure
Do we,
what it was.
do we want to try Google poll afterwards if needed? I just feel like those go better.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just as long as we can.
Well, I know, Will, that's more on you. Sorry, but I just feel like it, instead of trying to look at some of our goofy schedules, I can take the time and do those doodle polls pretty quickly.
Well, but maybe can we at least just commit to whatever the cadence is every other week, opposite of the full group, or every 3 weeks or twice, whatever.
I think we're going to do every 2 weeks on Friday, starting on the 29th. This is just another meeting other than that she's talking about.
So yeah, so what we can do is, thank you, Member Robertus. And Will, I know just having the open discussion is a little easier. But is that something that you could do, Mr. Vogel?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
I want to make sure if we need the time, we can do so. All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go into our discussion of the disqualification request. And so I know we had talked about the evidentiary, well, I know Mr. Vogel, this was kind of a verb or a term that you came up with the standards. And so if you could at this time, just do a brief overview again for the members that were not present.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Just a moment, let me share my screen here.
Thank you.
And actually, I'm going to switch this other presentation, which I gave at our last meeting for the benefit of the members who weren't present. So, yeah, definitely. So, as I believe I've shared with you in spreadsheet form, I've essentially analyzed Table 6 of the third DHS data set, which breaks down the disqualifying crimes or conduct for 2018 and 2019 that led to it. Breaks down disqualifications by what crime or conduct led to those disqualifications. And so I'm just going to leave these slides up for a beat, so you can have a look at them, and I can go to any that you'd like. But basically, we see a lot of aggravated robbery and second degree assault for leading to permanent bars. I neglected to do this for the 10-year bars because there wasn't enough data basically to rank them. It was a very small number of disqualifications, or excuse me, bars. Moving on to 15-year disqualifications, we see a lot of 5th degree controlled substance crime and theft as crimes or conduct that lead to disqualifications. Moving on to 10-year, we see theft, financial transaction card fraud, and a general theme with some exceptions of crimes of property or fraud crimes, essentially. In 7-year disqualifications, we see theft and domestic assault as prominent crimes. I'll point out that theft is an extremely prominent crime leading to a 7-year disqualification. In both years, it was about 45% of all 7-year disqualifications in those years. And then there's the category years disqualifying not entered for offense on that table. We see theft and 5th degree controlled substance crime, again, as leading categories there. So what I did, that was last week essentially, and what I've been doing pretty much all this week is breaking down the evidentiary standards that these determinations were based on. That is to say, if you got disqualified for 7 years for theft in 2018, or of these people who were disqualified for theft in 2018, how many were disqualified because they were adjudicated delinquent? How many were disqualified because of a preponderance of the evidence standard? That sort of thing. So that takes me to this presentation then, which essentially is looking at that question, which I believe I have shared with you. And for anyone who's viewing this meeting, this is an explanatory note sort of explaining where this data came from, and especially what the symbol NA means here. By way of explanation, the original DHS data set supplies single-digit numbers as just simply below 10. And so if you calculate percentages, you can't get a precise percentage. So these NAs mean percentages that are non-zero, but that we don't precisely know. That being said, though, if we look at this list of crimes or of top 10 crimes or conduct by where what the evidentiary standard was to make those determinations, we see quite a bit of variance. So for example, 100% of violation of predatory offender registration law in permanent bars in 2018 were based on a conviction, whereas 34% of second degree criminal sexual conduct was, and 46% were based on adjudicated delinquent, which I'm not a lawyer, so forgive me, but as far as I'm aware, that means essentially that the person was a juvenile when they committed the act. So this would be a reliance on juvenile records. I'll just try to loiter on these slides for you long enough for you to read them. Please let me know if you'd like me to go to any individual slide. And I put different years on different slides just for space reasons. But here's permanent bars in 2019. Very different adjudication of delinquency for second degree criminal sexual conduct in that year. I don't know what that means. 2018, 15-year disqualifications. A lot of adjudication of delinquency for burglary, for example. 2019, 15-year disqualifications. 10-year disqualifications in 2018. 10-year disqualifications in 2019. Seven-year disqualifications in 2018. We see a lot of admission for domestic assault compared to a lot of these other categories, for example, and a lot of use of preponderance of the evidence standard as well. 2019 7-year disqualifications, same here with admission and preponderance of evidence for domestic assault. And I'll point out we see 100% of maltreatment determinations for maltreatment, shockingly enough. And then the years disqualifying not entered for offense in 2018 and in 2019. So I'd be happy to go to any of these slides that you'd like during your discussion. I'll like try to take cues if you mention a particular crime or conduct, so just so we can have it on the screen. And I'd also point out that I've been sharing some other analyses with you, ranking crimes or conduct for the evidentiary standards of adjudicated delinquent, admission, conviction, and preponderance of evidence, to see not what the most common disqualifications or crimes leading to a disqualification of that year were, but rather what the most common, for example, percentage use of preponderance of evidence to lead to a disqualification was, if that makes sense. I don't know, I've been buried in these spreadsheets so long, please tell me if I'm not making sense. But that's what I've got, members. And you should also have received a spreadsheet version of dataset 4, which I know you're not getting to today, but it's available for you to do that sort of thing with if you want.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vogel. All right, so we will go ahead and open up the discussion. So is there any initial questions regarding the presentation or the overview that Mr. Vogel just went over?
I think it's great. My only comment would be, I wonder if there's a way when we see those anomalies to like either highlight them or bold them or something, because you did a good job drawing those out, but when people are looking through these, just to draw their attention to the ones that are like, oh, that seems to be fairly significant. So that would be my only thought, but I think they look fantastic, Mr. Vogel.
I know it was really alarming to me in regards to this page. I believe it's page 9 or page 8. And that's the assault in the 4th degree, vulnerable adults, peace officers, and transit drivers, etc. I mean, just in regards to issues in regards to police conduct. It's always interesting when you see persons arrested for resisting arrest, but then when you say, well, what was the initial touch point? What was the start of that interaction? There oftentimes isn't. So really alarming that it's so high. And thank you for the explanation in regards to the NAs. If there's no initial or any additional questions here, I do see that Ms. Kassane is here. And so I do want to open the floor for any updates that she has, or any part where Mr. Vogel stated that he was unsure what specifics meant. If you could please speak at this time.
I did have something though for Will. I wonder if there's a way, Will, that you could add the numbers as well as the percentages, because again, with when there's just percentages there, it's a percentage of what is always the thing that I ask. When you just have percentages, it can be kind of arbitrary, and so I know space is an issue on those, but it would be great to have both the numbers and the percentages, if that's possible. I know
even if,
yep, go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Vice, even if it's just the total for that line item and then the percentages are there to break it down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had like the raw data for the total number of thefts, or to Chair Williamson's point where, the 4th degree assault on transit workers, like how many people is just the total raw number of 50 people, and then we can see the percentages.
I completely agree. I would like that as well. I think that's a good way to do it, Ms. Manson.
Thank you for your feedback, members, and I can definitely look into getting you a revised version with that in consideration. There's
I
a little
know we
bit
don't
of,
have anything else to do.
clearly. There's a little bit of a logistics thing here where we're displaying this on screen because we're we're remediating this for accessibility. Anyone watching this, you can find this posted to the task force website. I will point out that it's extremely difficult to remediate a spreadsheet, which is why I'm not just displaying the spreadsheets that I use to generate this data. But if any of you are interested in essentially comparing like the raw numbers to the percentages on the fly or something like that, you should be able to find that pretty easily in the spreadsheets I just sent you. So not saying it's a substitute for a good presentation of data, just that's a resource that you could use in this meeting if you'd like.
Thank you for your work, Will. I appreciate you.
Is there, I know we had talked before just in regards to what the members are able to do. Just all of us, we wear so many hats. Vice chair, for example, when do you sleep, right? But anything that any of you can do to assist as we're doing these further analysis and synthesizing is greatly, greatly appreciated as we're setting the framing. So is there something that any of the members can add on to your very long list? I know member Cam, are you and is Jill here today? I don't think, no, Jill's not here. If there's anything that you want to add just as far as where you and Jill are at with what you have been working on or how any of us can be of assistance, please say so.
Yeah, I think would be very helpful for me, and maybe this will be what we're talking about as we project out what we're doing over the meetings ahead, is are there specific things we have not calculated or analyzed yet that need to be analyzed? Because again, we could analyze these data a million different ways. And again, the things that are interesting to me may not be interesting to others. So I think that's where we still as a committee need to try to identify for each of the data sets. Have we analyzed the things we want to? Are there more pieces we want to analyze? And then I think we can certainly keep analyzing away. My schedule opens up dramatically this summer, and I'm happy to help run analyses, to whatever degree is needed this summer. And I know that's not immediate, but we're talking like 5 weeks away when the semester ends. But certainly happy to continue helping. I just would like more direction based on what we're hearing of what exactly we want to run, and I'm all in.
Great to hear. Vice Chair Evans.
So, and that was kind of the point. The other two committees, the disqualification committee and the remedies committee, we were able to go through kind of week by week and the buckets of information that they're looking at. And so just for instance, the remedies committee is looking at juveniles and let me get it right. So their next
Permanency and POE.
What is it?
Permanency and the POE.
So the next 2.5 weeks or 2.5 meetings are going to be looking at permanency, and then the 2.5 weeks after that they're going to look at preponderance of evidence. And so what we've asked them to do is like what do they need from us to look at the data to find out for them so that they can have a good discussion about that. And so the plan is for disqualifications and remedies based on their workflow to kind of drive our workflow. So exactly what you're talking about, Roy, for based on the work they're doing now that we have all 4 of the data sets to be able to tell us these are the data points. Like they gave us some stuff to do last week or whatever. And then the point is for us to be able to do that work, hopefully during this time for them. That kind of the cart and the horse. So that's the hope anyways.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Kassane.
Madam Chair, I don't have any updates other than one point. I know that I'm still working on the crosswalk between the requests that this group has made and what's been provided and sort of a status on that. And I apologize. Last few weeks have been very heavily focused on legislative work. But I'm hoping I'll get that done as soon as I possibly can. But I'm open, any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer them or take them back to our team.
Yep, I did get an email. I did get an email back from Mr. Zempel about the answer why 2018 and 2019 were different is due to the children's. That's for sure the answer to that. And I know you said that you thought that was probably what it was, but he said for sure that's what it is. The changes in the children's background study laws. So
I forgot that we even asked that. But now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah.
Madam Chair, if I can interject there, on our website, there's sort of an explanation if you're looking for exactly what that entailed. But it was a very sharp increase in the required number of childcare studies. So, and who's being studied. So,
and was that a federal thing or a state thing?
it was state legislative changes for federal compliance.
Okay, so federal.
Mhm.
And Adam Walsh stuff?
Oh, I believe it was mostly the Child Care Development Block Grant.
Okay, so funding stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so as we're as we're yet still in this discussion, I just want to also just add in, we have been requested in regards to the categorization of the crimes and conduct. And so just really looking to set a framework, right? I'm not sure. I know with Mr. Vogel and, all that he's been doing to help, I don't know what type of statistical software maybe we need to look at having access to. And I appreciate even Vice Chair and Member Cameron for their work. I know we've often talked about, in regards to like the qualitative and quantitative results. So just looking how do we want to set the framing going forward? We have the spreadsheet, we have the 4 data sets to really just kind of go and take these deep dives. So what are we thinking as far as like just with where we're at and how we want to set this frame, what we want to start with as far as what we've been asked to do?
Well, Madam Chair, I think it would make some sense to do some concurrent things is provide analysis and summaries on each data set that we have and a timeline for that. And then also know that a portion of our meeting is going to need to be taken up by whatever the other subcommittees want us to address or look at or provide them as far as data is concerned. But I think some of those things need to happen concurrently. And I think we've probably done some of the work, but I don't feel like we have it in a presentation format to say, this is our summary of, of the data that we've been given. We've made some highlights and we've got some slide decks, but we probably need to spend some time getting that more cohesive.
Thank you. Cohesiveness is definitely one of the goals here. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I guess to make a note about what I've been doing with these slide decks. I'm basically trying not to do any interpretation here. I'm just presenting the numbers since, the interpretation is kind of up to y'all. So I don't want to create the impression that, I'm like taking the interpretive job away from you.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel, for saying that in the space. Any other discussion or suggestions in regards to setting the framework?
Sorry, it's me again. But I also think we need to decide what what and when we're presenting data to the larger group, because as far as analysis is concerned, I can see us presenting a collection of data points that we feel are important to look at, but assessing meaning to them might take a larger discussion based on, where do we get bang for our buck legislatively? What are things that are actually practical to do? I don't know, that might take all the voices of the committee versus just us.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's where I've always kind of struggled with our group, because for me, our group is really to get the data together, try to put it together in a way that we can either give to the other two groups or the larger group to collectively make recommendations. Now, Chair Geffen did say, if we noted anything or felt strongly about anything, right, to please let them know. But I'm not sure how much time we should spend on the actual conclusion portion of this that we would draw forward in this space and time. I don't know. Maybe I'm not, maybe we are supposed to, but I'm not certain.
Thank you, Member Robertus. And thank you, Member Matson. Excuse me. Any other? So with us looking at going to bi-weekly, I know we have the 29th. And so with us looking at going to bi-weekly, that basically has given us the opportunity of having those two meetings where I really like Member Matson's suggestion in regards to, carving out time just to go over what requests the other subcommittees have asked. So that could be at one of the meetings could be specifically for that. We have another meeting that is just going into our analysis. Or we can do both, right? So as far as being able to focus in or hone in on the what and the when, I know that is something that I just see the task force as a whole, especially with all three of the subcommittees. We're really at this point now where the focus was on the interim report, and now we're all like moving to this shift to just really take these deeper dives, right? So when we're looking at, again, going back to just setting the framework for today. So we have the top 10 identified. I'm just wondering, are we all in agreement with focusing on the 10 that was on that spreadsheet? Is there anything that needs to be added? Anything that we should categorize as far as priority with what is on the spreadsheet?
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wish I did. I just am not sure I'm fully understanding.
Yeah, so this is just simply just the basics to setting the framework here. So I'm just
10 on which spreadsheet though are you talking about?
The
excuse me.
disqualifying offenses?
So with the spreadsheet that Mr. Vogel just did the overview on from what we were requested, I'm referring to that spreadsheet.
So it's a different 10 on each. So it's a 10 on permanent, 10 I don't understand the question.
So I'm just trying to see what do we want to collectively decide to be our focus as far as for example, so we saw with the crimes, right? So looking to prioritize how we want to dove off into like how I had laid out as far as what was that, like 23%? Let me see. Yeah, a little over 23% in regards to like assault in fourth degree. So like, is that something like we're focusing there? Is that something that we're looking to lay out, like in regards to the vulnerable adults, the peace officers, like really just being able to break those down and be able to look at like the patterns in regards to those specifics? Or is there another, are we wanting to look at that? Like just being able to just kind of fine tune our focus?
So
Does that
that was something that I, Madam Chair, that I thought of when I was looking at because there is potentially some similarities between what, you know, well, and I obviously am not an expert, but in looking at these, it seems like there might be a similarity between theft and check forgery. I don't know, you know, or something like that, that there could be categories. I think that's what I'm hearing you saying is, are there categories that can be focused on for like nonviolent offenses or something like that? Is that what
Yes.
you're getting at?
Yes, because that was part, I apologize if I wasn't clear. I'm just adding into this discussion. We was also requested in regards to categorizing the crimes. So I just kind of included that in this discussion. So I apologize for the unclarity.
Got it. What was the third question that we never got to? Well, because I know they asked about the top 10 and then the evidentiary standards, and then there was one more after that.
Madam Chair, Ms. Evans, it was in fact what Chair Williamson's just discussing. Essentially, they'd like a breakdown of how many crimes there are in each category, but the categories they leave up to you.
Got it. Categorizing. And so that's the question that you're asking about, Tashonda, like what are the, and so how would we do that, do you think?
Yeah, I'm just wondering just having a discussion of what the members feel that we should focus.
Is anyone on our subcommittee a lawyer? No.
Kelly
feel
Moeller
I'm-
is Representative
Huh?
Moeller. Isn't Representative Moeller an attorney? I mean,
Yep.
I just feel like I know enough to be like to categorize. I get a little nervous because sometimes, you know, you plead one thing and then I don't know. I just get all nervous. So like trying to categorize, I feel like maybe a lawyer would be a good person to help us do that. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, I
I
think that
feel
makes
like
sense.
I could pocket some together based on my layman's knowledge, but I also feel like what if we kind of miss the mark?
And I feel like I could do it based on, like, we talked about this in in the chairs meeting the other day, about like, here's the ones like the feds, and like, these are just a no-go, right? These are the ones we're not going to get moved. And so we put them over there, right? These are going to stay permanent. And then these are the ones that like I feel like we could get some movement on, and maybe they're you know, a time frame before people can ask for a set aside. And then these are the ones, it's like, what in the world? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we spending the money on it? And maybe it's a 5-year disqualification, and because that's what other states do, right? That's what Iowa
Right.
does. That's what, and so
That's-
to like, when you're talking about classifications of them, or do we classify them? And I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Do we classify them by people and property? And then what do we do then? Like all the property crimes, they should just be 5 years. And then these people crimes, so, I mean, there's a couple different ways to classify them, and how do we do that? Like, it'd be nice to have a little direction, because I feel like they weren't clear about how they wanted us to classify them.
And you know, I completely agree in regards to having a Juris Doctorate obtainer to be able to help us to really understand, you know, categorizing the crimes I completely agree. However, I think we also need to at least start with categorizing, and then we can always have, whether it's Representative Mueller or someone else to then give that approval or give, that additional feedback. But to at least start somewhere would be important. I also please.
It doesn't seem like we would need to have a degree to say this is what is a no-go for the feds. And this is what some other states, they don't look at. I mean, that seems, we've used evidence-based information to inform our, we're not recreating the legal wheel.
Right.
Yeah, I think if we were to put them in those buckets, I thought we were maybe trying to buck them by type of crime and similarity. That's how I originally understood it. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, macro level in a sense. So, all right. So how should we categorize them?
So the way I started doing it, because I've already started on this, is I did yellow, red, and green.
Okay.
And, red is no, yellow is maybe, and green is like, and when I do that, I think with my conservative hat on, because that's the opposition, right? That's my political strategy hat, right? And so red is no way, is my conservative friend's going to let that go. Yellow is maybe we can get that done, and green is absolutely I can get that over the finish line. And so that's how I think about it. So, just starting on the permanent bar, I'm on the spreadsheet, right? Aggravated robbery, maybe. Assault in the second degree, maybe. Crim sex conduct 3, not happening. Criminal. So we could just do that if you guys want to just.
Please.
Yep. So.
A clarifying question really quickly. So you said the yellow, green, and red. So as you were talking, I was just looking at that, red being the federal requirements. Green could be the state because we are task force of the state of Minnesota. Yep. And then yellow being those random or miscellaneous.
So
those maybes.
Yep. And so, and some of that, we were looking at it. We have some tasks, Will's gonna, we have a JD, looking up the federal stuff, because that's a whole different set of laws that somebody's gonna have to look that up. We don't have anybody on our, that somebody's gonna have to look that stuff up. That's not our state stuff. And so we don't know what we don't know at this point. There's some stuff in there about maybe all of these sex crimes, even though maybe we don't feel fifth degree is that that could be a maybe, but the feds may say something different. You know what I mean?
Emily, do you and your team have that list? I mean, you've got to know that by heart, kind of, huh? When you click no, you get something, probably those are the easiest ones for you.
Yes, Member Robertus. I personally couldn't recreate that list for you. We do have one of our attorneys is working on listing out federal requirements.
Oh, so Gina, maybe that's the JD you had referenced.
Well, no, it's Lucas is looking at it to figure out what does the federal stuff it's on the list for. Did they give that to us already, Will, or no?
Ms. Evans, no.
Okay,
as you might recall, we've had some discussions offline, but haven't gotten any sort of list.
Yep, there were. Yeah,
we can stop sharing just for a moment. I just wonder, Ms. Kassane, is that something that what's the name of that list that you are referencing to?
Member Williamson, I've seen the document in progress once, but it's listing out federal requirements for various background study types, provider types, and the statute and so on.
So just basically federal. Is that something that you can inquire about there being a copy get into this?
It's on the list already, Tashonda.
It is on the list.
Yeah, we've
Okay,
asked,
I,
we've
all right,
asked for it. And there was some conversation about, I think, whether LCC was gonna do it or DHS was gonna do it. So,
got you. Okay,
yep, we've asked.
Oh, thanks.
Great.
My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, Madam
Nope.
Chair, just to add to Ms. Evans' point, yeah, there was that conversation, and the conclusion was that since DHS are the subject matter experts, it made more sense for them to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I concur. Okay, so we are just doing a
Tell me
time
you
check.
guys' thoughts on manslaughter. You guys want to just go through this list? We got 7 minutes.
Yellow.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say the timestamp here. Yeah, go ahead, Vice Chair, please.
All right. So this is the permanent list I'm on right now. So, and that's the thing, like, we don't have this federal stuff, right? There could be some of this stuff, these manslaughter ones. Like, I don't know what the Fed, because we looked up that, what did that slide say? Well, about the bodily harm, or does it just say murder, or? Kidnap? That's
Ms.
not-
Evans, sorry, I don't think I follow. So this slide is derived essentially from this spreadsheet with the same terminology used. So it would list
Remember
just.
when you and me and Lucas were looking at the federal?
The Title 4E.
Yep.
Sorry, I misunderstood you, Ms. Evans. So just off the top of my head,
There was 2 slides. One was, looked like it was all
Yeah.
Adam Walsh stuff, and the other one was,
so actually, yeah, I can pull it up. This is a slideshow I create, if you don't mind, Madam Chair.
are you
Please.
gonna put? Are you gonna?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
just
I'm
read
gonna-
it though?
Sorry.
Can you just read it though?
Oh, certainly. So just by way of explanation, this is a slideshow I created for the remedies group a while back, just sort of summarizing what the text of Title 4E reads, which enumerates some specific convictions that are essentially bars for the federal scheme. And I know I'm being super loose, and probably every lawyer who's listening is cringing right now. I can send a copy when this meeting's over. But basically, that's the long-winded way of getting to. We have essentially, it looks like permanent bars for felony convictions for child abuse or neglect, for spousal abuse, I'm reading verbatim here, for a crime against children, including child pornography, or for a crime involving violence, including rape, sexual assault, or homicide, but not including other physical assault or battery. And then we can see that the physical assault or battery comes up at the next section of that statute, where it's essentially a 5-year bar for any case involving a child on whose behalf such payments are to be made, in which a record check reveals a felony conviction for physical assault, battery, or a drug-related offense. So in very long-winded answer to your question, Ms. Evans, the federal statute specifies homicide. So that is sort of a question for a lawyer, I think, what
Yep.
homicide means in federal law as opposed to the murder statutes and manslaughter statutes that we have here in Minnesota.
Yep. So that's what Lucas is looking up. Like, is it just murder, or is it also manslaughter? So is it just like when someone's life is taken? And so I think the permanent one is harder. And like, so I think these ones maybe will be a little easier for us to go through. So check forgery, felony driving while impaired, burglary, controlled substance crimes. What do you guys, I'm gonna do all of these ones green. What do you guys think about first degree controlled substance? Do you feel like, and I'm just making the assumption like 5 years on these?
So I'm gonna say, as an employer, like, I don't feel capable of making that assessment because there's potential risk. And I would want, it seems arbitrary to just say, like, as a person, as a human being, I would give you a different answer than I would if I'm speaking for a group of employers. And I feel like it needs to be based on either, okay, this is what other states are doing, so you've got some point of reference or some other professional point of reference to say,
So,
this scholar is saying that these crimes, there's this research that indicates, or something else to point to rather than my opinion. Sorry.
yep, so 5 years is what the feds do. And 5 years is what several of the other states that Will has looked at do. And so we've looked at that data. He's shared that data. Except for yep. So we've looked at that a little bit. Except for these.
So we do more, you're saying?
Way more. We are an outlier on the very far end of with the 15-year and the 10-year and the bars. Most states, except for murder, child, what he just read, like, and as far as other states do, like, we are an outlier.
Okay,
So
thank you.
maybe-
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry,
you guys, I got a jet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's fine. I just want to say that, we will definitely send out that doodle poll just so we can look to set the time frame. I think just for example, with our April 29th meeting, that is one that we can prepare to complete our categorizing. And then with our 2 meetings in May, it'll be May 13th and May 27th, I believe. And Mr. Vogel, you can correct me if I have that wrong. We'll look to, at our April 29th meeting, we can look to specify what we'll do at those 2 meetings. With the doodle poll, we're basically just going to go into just say that we're going to bi-monthly meetings, and just to discuss that quickly, maybe like a 30-minute meeting is all that would be on that, or the following week, excuse me.
And Tashonda, if I may, Nicole and anyone else on the meeting, what do you all feel like you would need for us to be able to do this work? That's my question. Like, what do you feel like you need to be able to like categorize this stuff? Because I want to make sure that we all feel educated and prepared to be able to do it. You know what I mean?
I would want somebody to give me a point of reference,
Okay.
to group, if it's pre-grouped, to say, I grouped all these based on we're outliers. I grouped all these based on the fact that it matches federal statute, or
Yep.
Whatever the point of reference is.
Because
gives
we
me
have that
comfort to say,
data.
right.
Yeah, we just maybe haven't shared it well.
I'm assuming that we do. I know that we
Yep.
do.
Yep.
It's just connecting all of the dots to say this.
Perfect.
I'm providing you with the data in a way that you can make form an opinion, an
Okay.
informed opinion, if that makes sense.
So yeah, for sure, the 29th we'll plan to categorize. Really quick, Ms. Kassane, did you hear anything more as far as potential availability of data team members?
Madam Chair and members, I believe I've asked, I think it's also a scheduling issue about the last 3 weeks. So I can ask again.
Great. Thank you.
Emily, do you have one more quick second, Miss?
Sure.
I just want to, I have a quick question about data set 4. If you could bring this back.
Vice Chair, really quick, just a quick pause. I want to acknowledge that it is 2:00, so if anyone has to go, thank you so much. Vice Chair, please continue.
If you could just, and I can send an email too to Kulani and Chris, can you find out for me what previous set aside and remains set aside?
Okay.
Why this data is different?
Okay.
Yeah,
Ms.
Mr.
Evans,
Vogel,
Madam Chair.
Mr. Vogel, please.
Sorry, Ms. Kassane, I think I'm sort of stepping on your toes with that, but
No.
there is an explanation for what those terms mean in the text of the PDF.
Okay.
Of the data set 4.
Awesome.
Essentially, off the top of my head, as I'm recalling from those definitions, the previous set aside meant there was a previous set aside that is relevant for the position contemplated and remains set aside. Essentially, there were set asides that worked that work for the current position the applicant was applying for. But there's precise language in that PDF, which I could read out if you'd like, but I know we are bumping up against
No.
time.
Nope, it's at the end it's at the end.
No, so you're looking at table 2 right now. There's a list of definitions right before table 2 in that PDF.
Okay. All right.
And apologies again for stepping on your toes, Ms. Cassane.
Nope.
No, thank-
Perfect. Mr. Vogel, that's great. I was gonna look for the definitions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vogel. You felt that I was getting ready to defer to you because I knew we had that. Okay, so with that being said, we can go ahead and just move to adjourn. Just rich discussion and just really appreciate all the expertise here. So please fill out the doodle poll so that we can get that quick meeting in. And then on the 29th, we can really delve in to categorizing. All right. So with that being said, we are adjourned. And if there was nothing else, any clarifying questions really quickly, we can move to adjourn.